Ever since Zohran Mamdani was elected, there has been a lot of debate about what that means for the future of the Democratic Party. And Mayor Mamdani has not been shy about wading into that debate. In New York's 10th congressional district, Mayor Mamdani endorsed his political ally, Brad Lander, in a primary challenge against incumbent Congressman Dan Goldman. A recent Emerson poll finds Brad Lander is now leading Dan Goldman in that race by a whopping 34 points. Now, in the race to replace retiring Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, the mayor backed fellow Democratic Socialist and State Assembly member Claire Valdez over Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso, who has the backing of many New York Democrats, including the outgoing Congresswoman whose seat it currently is. A recent Emerson poll found that race neck and neck, with the mayor's candidate leading by 2 points within the poll's margin of error. Now, today, the New York Times writes that the mayor has a choice to make in another contested primary. In New York's 13th district, 71-year-old incumbent Congressman Adriano Espaillat is facing a primary challenge from 32-year-old Democratic Socialist Darialisa Avila Chevalier. Congressman Espaillat has represented the district since 2017, when he became the first formally undocumented person to win a seat in Congress. He backed Mayor Mamdani's rival, Andrew Cuomo, in the Democratic primary for mayor last year, but was among the first Cuomo supporters to endorse Mamdani after he won the primary. Now, the mayor is ready to make an endorsement in that race, an announcement in that race, pretty significant. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is back with me, and joining him is Democratic House candidate for New York's 13th district, Darialisa Avila Chevalier. Mr. Mayor, I think the hint here is who is sitting next to you, obviously. But tell us about your announcement and why you decided to endorse.
You know, I am so excited to be sitting here with Darialisa, and I'm so excited to be endorsing her in her run for Congress. She is the daughter of a single mom caseworker, and she grew up with a commitment to the very people that politics have left behind. And what I see in her is that commitment fulfilled. This is a New Yorker who has not only secured the release of our neighbors from undue ICE custody, also someone who has been on the front lines of that fight for affordability. And I can't wait for her to be introduced to so many across this city and across this country as we fight for that affordability agenda from New York City to D.C.
Darialisa, you're running for Congress. Your opponent, as you know, in this race is no stranger to contested primaries. For people who are, again, just catching up here, he primaried former Congressman Charlie Rangel twice before eventually winning his seat in Congress. That's part of our democratic process. But he is a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He's led on issues like immigration, ones that you care about deeply as well. He was at the Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center conducting oversight this week. Tell us why you would be better to represent this district.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to be sitting next to the mayor. I am someone who has felt deeply abandoned by the establishment politics that far too often see my community as merely a statistic, that far too often only shows up to explain away the circumstances that the politics that they have voted for time and time again, which have impacted our community in ways that they do not feel the effects of. And as someone who has had to live with the question of whether I can even afford to stay in the city I love, as someone who has struggled with this issue of affordability, but yet seen time and time again my tax dollars, New Yorkers' tax dollars, be used to bomb children and families abroad instead of being invested in our communities here, I am tired of that type of politics, and I'm running because I believe my community deserves the dignity of a representative who is going to fight tooth and nail for the things that they deserve.
You were an active part. I think people are getting to know you right now. So I'm introducing some parts of your biography here. You were an active part of the campus protests at Columbia University. And Columbia, of course, became a national flashpoint in American politics after those protests and after their decision to cave to the Trump administration last year. Columbia is in the district. And if you win, we'll be representing them in Congress. How are you thinking about that responsibility?
You know, I understand the enormity of the responsibility that my community has entrusted me with, and I do not take that for granted. I am deeply honored and grateful for this opportunity. And I, like so many, I really feel that this is a fight to make sure that we are representing working class New Yorkers who have been left behind by a politics that only serves the interests of corporations, of corporate landlords, of special interest groups that are making life in New York deeply unaffordable for so many, while we watch atrocities being committed with our tax dollars. Our tax dollars should come back to our communities. Institutions like Columbia and corporate lobbies and real estate developers who are making life so unaffordable for our communities are a part of this establishment politics that have failed us. And so I'm running because I'm fighting for the working people of New York 13. But even more than that, I'm fighting because I believe that we deserve a politic in our entire country that is actually reflective of a politics of life and not a politics of death.
Mayor Mamdani, now I just outlined some of this. You endorsed in a number of these races. There is, I know you're well aware of this, quite a hotly contested primary in New York's 12th congressional district, where I believe you currently live.
Yes, I do reside within it.
You do. You would be a constituent of sorts. Are you planning to make an endorsement in that race before Election Day?
You know, this is the endorsement that I'm so proud to make, and I can tell you that this completes my congressional slate that I'm so proud of. And, you know, last June, last November, those victories that so many New Yorkers rallied behind, we knew that they were not just victories for one elected office. They were victories of a movement that was seeking to turn the page on a politics of big money and small ideas, on a politics that would leave working people behind. And in Claire Valdez, Brad Lander, and now Daria Lisa, I see embodiments of that vision. And I'm so excited to not only endorse them and support them, but also that New Yorkers will have the opportunity to vote for them this June.
So no more endorsements coming from you in these congressional primaries, not even in the very hotly contested one where you live, it sounds like. Is that right?
I can tell you that as a voter, I will be voting in that primary.
Of course, but no more public endorsements.
In terms of my endorsements, this is my final congressional endorsements for New York City, and I'm so incredibly excited that it's Daria Lisa. And I just want to focus on her candidacy and what she brings to this race. Truly, to me, it is a person who will be on the front lines of showing that a Democratic Party, it is not enough for us to simply be against federal policies that we see today. We have to be fighting for a vision that reckons with the fact that working people were not left behind just 4 years ago or 16 years ago. They were left behind a long time before that. And it will take a new generation of leadership to ensure that the heartbeat of this party is once again the struggles of the working class. And in electing a champion like Daria Lisa to represent uptown Manhattan and the Bronx, we could have exactly that in Congress.
I am so grateful that you both took the time to be here. Let me ask you quickly, with like about 30 seconds left here, what's advice you would give to Democrats out there who are trying to balance between telling the story of what they're going to do on issues like cost of living and laying the case about corruption and other issues that their opponents are full of? I'm thinking of people like James Tallarico.
You know, I think that there are some Democrats who definitely don't need my advice. They're doing a good job. What I would say generally, though, is you do have to find the balance in showing that you're more than just not the other person. You are also someone who has a vision for what life will be like in this city and in this country. And it has felt like too long that the Republicans have had a monopoly on the terms of the debate in our country. The Democrats have just sought to respond to it time and time again. It is time for us to put forward our own ideas. It is time for uptown Manhattan and the Bronx to be part of leading what this country thinks is possible. And I'll tell you, when I go around this city and I see so many incredible monuments to things like the Four Freedoms, and I think about the way we used to distill our ambition into easily understandable ways that New Yorkers and Americans understood impacted their lives, I realize that we have come a long way from where we used to be as a party. It's time we have a new generation that not only takes us back to that ambition, but takes us forward to the tomorrow that so many New Yorkers are waiting for.
It's a perfect place to end. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Daria Lisa Avila Chevalier, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much
for having us.
I should note Congressman Adriano Espaillat has an open invitation to come on the show and make his case to voters as well.